All right, let's go. We are live with another episode of Commercial Roofing Radio. And on this episode, I've got an amazing guest, Tiffany Snow. She's been in the roofing industry for quite a while, over 12 years owning her own company. And now she is the director of commercial operations at CMR. That is an amazing feat, an amazing position. And you're an amazing person in general. Tiffany, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks, Alan. You speak highly. I don't agree with all of it, but okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean it from the heart. You really are absolutely amazing. And it's funny when I call it inherited because it was a lot of a gift that Nick Perrette, handed me the host of the show. You're the first person I thought of, like bar none. I've been in this roofing industry for my entire life. I was born into it. And I know a lot of people in the commercial space. A whole lot of people, and the absolute first person I'm like, I gotta get Tiffany on the show. So yeah, I don't know if it's yeah, absolutely. So and that's where I start with it. I don't know if you watched the show. It is Commercial Roofing Radio, so we like to talk commercial roofing, but I like to hear about you, Tiffany. So I like to know where you came from, how you got into the business, things like that. So let's start with that. Who's Tiffany Snow? Where'd you get started?
Tiffany came from, the dust of West Texas. I grew up in the oil field, and I actually have an accounting degree in oil and gas accounting. And that's what I started out, was in the petroleum industry. I never grew up to be a roofer. So, I don't meet a lot of people that grow up as kids and say, I want to be a roofer. But I did end up in the roofing industry because I fell in love with a roofer. So that's how I ended up in here. And he took me out of the petroleum industry and wooed me, and I tried other things, but no, he convinced me to get into the roofing industry with him, and so it's all Monte's fault.
Yeah, Monte's pretty convincing. I think he would pull me out of an industry. I like him so much. I mean, I think my love and admiration for Monte Snow is right up there with Tiffany. I love both of y'all. I could go on and on about Monte, but that's awesome. So West Texas, if people are watching that aren't familiar with Texas, West Texas is the dirt hole, known for a lot of sand, known for a lot of heat, known for a lot of oil. That's really cool. So in an accountant for oil, that's tough because oil is constant numbers and everything like that. I would think that that's like the premier spot for that degree in that art. So what was that like?
That was a lot of high pressure, and one of my biggest accomplishments was I was very, very young, still finishing up school, but I worked for Scott Sheffield. He was the CEO of Parker & Parsley at the time. And I worked with another financial analyst that I am still friends with today. And we crunched the numbers on the merger that Parker & Parsley and Mesa Incorporated with T-Boone Pickens. And we crunched the numbers to make the merger happen. And they're the largest independent oil company in the world. It's Pioneer Natural Resources. So that was a really cool deal. That was in my early 20s that I was able to work on that merger. So it was a big accomplishment.
That's amazing. Would you say that
pressure, a lot of work?
Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to skip around too much, but today you're going into big boardrooms, making big deals. Do you think that handling stuff like that kind of prepared you for that, or is it so dissimilar that it didn't?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, I didn't know what it was preparing me for. Never knew I would use any of the skills that I learned in the petroleum industry. But yeah, I'm not easily intimidated in a boardroom or in front of people or in negotiations. So it absolutely had a lot to do with preparing me for the position today.
That's awesome. I can see you now. Tiffany walking into the boardroom.
What you're learning.
Yep.
You never know what you're learning in your younger years that you're going to use later on in life. So
yeah, it's like everything prepares you.
Opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite part about that? Was it that merger? Was it the job in general? Was it freeing? What was your favorite part about working back then?
My favorite part of working back then was the mergers and acquisitions and working with Parker and Parsley on all of that. That took us a couple of years to do. I ended up going after the merger working for Schlumberger, and I was a controller for them in West Texas, East New Mexico, and South Texas. I had 32 field district offices that I monitored the financials on. And the fun part about that was learning, because Schlumberger does so many oil field services. So I was one of the only ones that would get out of the office and go get on the rig and, find out what we're doing. So learning all of the different precision drilling that we did and the fracking and even today now, because that was 20 years ago. So even today now, the fracking is completely different. But being in the field and being on the rigs and learning what we did was a fun part. But I think my favorite accomplishment was the merger.
That's really cool. It's such an interesting world to me. I worked at Hailstorm in Roswell, New Mexico, and it seemed like everybody, and I always sold high end or commercial when I was selling. And so everybody that I touched, they were in the oil fields. They were in the oil business, and some big, I wish I could remember most of their names. I know a couple of them. Maybe we'll chat about it at some point in time, but you probably know them. You've probably worked with them at some point because they were doing some big business. So, that brings me to the next step is getting into the roofing industry. You mentioned that it was for love. Well, where did you meet Monte? Where'd that love start? So how did you get introduced to Monte?
Well, so another big part of my life was horses and ranching. And when Monte graduated, he graduated with an industrial technology degree, but his minor was also in farrier service. So I actually met him, I think it was 25 years ago. He came to shoe my horses.
Oh, wow.
That's how I met him. And it was before he was in the roofing industry. He was teaching back then. So then he went in, after about 5 years of teaching, he went into the roofing industry. So
Monte is a teacher. I would love to have Monte as a teacher for anything. Yeah, that is amazing.
It was quite comical. Like the cafeteria ladies would get him mixed up with the students. So when he had to get his lunch.
Oh, please continue. This is perfect.
Yeah. He said he had to grow a goatee to convince the cafeteria ladies that he was a teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he went into the roofing industry out of teaching and that was about 24 years ago. He hasn't looked back.
That's amazing. That's probably why he's been so successful. I mean, really, I've always related, again, the sales, especially in the roofing industry, especially the storm restoration industry, to teaching. If you're teaching somebody, you're just informing them and they make the decision. It just so happens that the best decision is CMR. It is Monte. So, again, just teach them the right way. They're going to make the right decision. They're going to choose you. I love that. So was it love at first sight? Was it?
Oh gosh, no. No.
That's cool.
I thought he was very cocky and arrogant. And I said, no, I don't want him. It took him several years to convince me.
Yeah.
I think our second date, he said, let's go to the lake. And I was like, oh, okay. We're going to go to the lake and have a good time. No, he was putting on, because he had gotten into the roofing industry before we started dating. We had just known each other. And so our second date, we went to the lake, and I'm thinking we're going to the lake to have fun. And he had a standing seam metal job going, and I had to go help.
Oh, there you go. So he just threw you right into it. Nonstop. And so is that how you got into it? So he pulled you into it. Was there a fight there? Was there like a little bit of resistance?
Yeah. I did not think roofing was, I didn't see the full industry as a whole. I just saw, the front line of roofing, and I just didn't think that there was anything past that. And so I had gotten into some high-end real estate business because he moved me from West Texas to North Texas. And so I had helped manage some marinas there at one of the resort lakes, Possum Kingdom Lake.
Wow.
And I'd gotten into some high-end real estate and was making real estate deals and doing spec homes with some realtors. And that was a lot of fun. And roofing just didn't look any funner than that. So I
Yeah.
really enjoyed those years of doing that with them. And the whole time he just kept convincing me over and over and over. So finally, after a couple of years, we started our own business. And it became very successful. And I had an addition to our business of timber frame. I love to build timber frame barns, and that came from learning how to do the spec homes. So we had timber frame and roofing business for over 12 years in Texas, and we were very successful with it. He had a history. He had also taken a couple of years to be a manufacturer rep with Versico and Hunter Panels and Karnak. So he had advanced his career and his knowledge in a lot of what he knew about roofing products for the commercial industry. So he had that, and then I had the building experience from my real estate, and we just merged those into our own business. And I was hoping and trying just to stay on the timber frame side, and the roofing, it did take over. So for 12 years, we had a family owned business, and we did very well with it. He would still travel some. He became not a storm chaser, but a storm responder. When the storms hit, he would have previous clients that would call him. And so he would go and take care of a few clients, in a storm, but not remobilized to a storm. And he would work with CMR on those projects through those years. And that's kind of what led into Steve Soule he absorbed our whole entire company into his.
Yeah.
To start the commercial division. So that's how that all kind of started and connected. Monte had worked with Steve's former partner about 24 years ago in a hurricane in 2004.
And if anybody doesn't know, they're probably living under a rock, but Steve Soule is the owner of CMR as well.
Yeah.
And that's where that all relates to where she's at today. So continue. I just wanted to give you a little backstory there.
Yeah. So Steve Soule used to have a partner, and that partner and Monte had worked together in a hurricane. So that's how Steve met Monte. And they've known each other for, I think, close to 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Steve was actually one of Monte's customers at one time when Monte was a manufacturer rep.
Wow. At Versico. That makes sense.
Yeah. So Steve had watched us in our own business in Texas grow and what we had done with it. And we didn't operate outside of Texas, just in Texas. And he had watched it. And so that's why he came to us in 2020 and said, let's start this commercial division for real.
Yeah. Interesting. So when you were with the let's call it family business with you two, what was your role in the company? What were you doing? You did a lot of the timber, all of that kind of stuff, the roofing, the accounting, keeping Monte in line, all the stuff that needs to be done.
That is a full-time job. Yeah. When we started, we were a very small company, and I was on the timber frame side. So I was literally on site. Haven is now 14 and she was a toddler. She was a baby into a toddler. And I remember I would have my Ford Excursion, and I would just lay down all the seats in it because I was the superintendent, the project manager, the bookkeeper, and I was on site at the barns. And I would just leave my diesel Excursion running, and she would be playing all day and watching her, and so the Excursion was the toddler room, but I would be on site. So that was my role. And again, today I appreciate those days of me being on site. I mean, there's not a piece of equipment I can't run, not plans I can't read or figure out. And it's all because of those days. And as we grew and got busier, we hired foremen, and then I became more into the office. But Monte and I both just, we were like co-CEOs together, and he would run the roofing side. And then once the roofing side got so busy as well, I eventually, we closed the timber frame side because the roofing was just taking off crazy. Man. Timber frame is very niche specialty trade.
It sounds very niche. Yeah. Will you ever get back into doing some timber frame stuff or anything like that? That sounds pretty cool.
I would love to. It's not on the horizon right now.
Not on the horizon. There you go. Well, that's cool. I love that dynamic. So, it's really awesome. And again, I love Monte. I love what you guys are doing. So you'd storm respond, and then he would kind of I guess, go sell a job or something like that and then bring it over to CMR. And that's how that relationship started. And he basically, it's almost like a merger, right? A merger acquisition with your company. And I think what's so cool about that is you started in the boardrooms. Like here in your 20s, you're starting doing these big deals in the boardrooms. And then you go back to being on site and really getting your hands dirty. And now you're back in the boardrooms. So how did that happen? How did you go the CMR? What were the early days with you getting into CMR? How was that transition?
So the early days of us getting into CMR all started with Monte and Steve doing a deal on a motorsports race. It was one race and they got one project out of that one race. And then Steve said, hey, I think we could do this, repeatedly. I think we can maintain accounts. So Steve and I had talked, and we talked about basing the commercial division on national accounts and capital asset planning, because so many customers the roof is the last thing in the budget and the roof is the last thing they think about. And so, but it's the first defense against, Mother Nature and protecting what you've got. So we talked about visiting with some accounts and some people that we had met through motorsports. So in the very beginning, there was not a director. I was not the first director of the commercial division. Monte and I just came on with our team to maintain an account, one account. We had one account, and then we were trying to create more accounts. So I was on site as well. I would kick jobs off. We were selling it and project managing it.
Wow.
With our team. And we had great superintendents that came with us from our company that came over. They're very loyal and dedicated. So, within months, less than 6 months, we had 5 projects in 5 different states going.
Wow.
And that's how fast it started growing. So, I remember in April in Utah, April of 21, we had record snowfall on a project I was kicking off in Utah, and Monte had record hail in Orange Beach on the same day. And I was on that site and he was on the Orange Beach site, kicking those jobs off. So we wore a lot of hats in the beginning, as we were growing the commercial division. So I was on site as well. I didn't have the kids on site at that point. Like I did
there you go.
When we were younger, in our own company. But yeah, we wore all the hats as well. We estimated. We did not have an estimating department at that time at CMR.
So you're doing all that.
We estimated our own. Yeah.
My least favorite part about the business, I'm not a computer guy. I still type like this. So doing estimates, doing all that kind of stuff is not fun. So that's, wow. And how did that relate to running your own business with you two? Was it just basically almost more of the same? Because now you're running your own business inside CMR. It wasn't much of a transition. It's just jumping over here and growing nationally.
Right. Many times I would do things that were normal to me, but not in line with the way CMR did things. Yeah. And so, there was a lot of adjustments for myself and the CMR team, because, like at the home office, they were like, what are you doing? Like, I don't even know if I understood what was happening. So the accounting department would call and, be like, what's going on? And so I would have to remember, oh yes, it's not my business, it's CMR. So there was some adjustments for all of us, but we just pushed right through and became a united team. I used to give Steve a hard time in the very beginning. I said, I think you forgot to tell the home office what we were doing, the human resources and the accounting. And that's typical Sule style. Sometimes I get a call and I'm like, oh, Steve's doing something. So
yeah, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's what he says. They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out.
But yeah, it was. I very much had the mindset of, this is just my own business and I'm just wearing a different logo on the shirt.
Well,
very much that mind.
I think it says so much. So to who you are and who Monte is and your capabilities and your vision, because what people don't understand is is they see CMR, they see this big business. And CMR was a very large business at the time. And here you are doing account management style, which is exactly what my business model was in National Claims Advisors. The minute we started it, it's national accounts, it's relationships, but people don't get how much money that costs. That is not an easy system to start up. That takes a ton of trust to be able to do that, because you're going out, making relationships, adding value, and you're really planting seeds that you may never even sow or may take years to sow. How did that go about? How did you earn that much trust, or how did that feel?
Earn the trust from the CMR.
Just having the trust from CMR to be able to go do that and operate that way. Because again, people think that, oh, you go out and you make these relationships, you get these accounts and you're instantly bringing in jobs. And it doesn't really work that way. A lot of times you're maintaining properties, you're spending money almost on asset management agreements and things like that. So, how was that?
So the trust with Steve Soule was always 100% there, and is still there today. And to let you know, we started during COVID. We started trying to secure the accounts during COVID. So it was a little, sometimes
that's hairy.
It was. I mean, Monte and I landed in the Vegas airport and it was a ghost town, to go meet with one of our new clients that we were trying to secure. So the trust was always there. The trust and vision was always there from Steve. The trust of the existing staff at CMR, I had to earn that because they didn't see the vision. A lot of them do now, and now we're a united team. But in the very beginning, I would say for the first 18 to 24 months, I had a big question mark on my back. And the commercial division is still not incredibly profitable at all, because it's just like starting a whole brand new business. And so we grew. We had 38% growth one year and 42% the next. Wow. So we were still in that growing phase, and now we're in the tighten up and be efficient phase of where we are. So now the trust is there, but
I bet. Yeah.
But in the beginning, it wasn't.
It's so impressive. It really is, the way that you've done it. And I just bring that up because it just, again, it attests to who you are for somebody that's already successful, already doing well, has no business to just spend a bunch of money to go do this, to try to do this, and let you run with it. And there you are, and you did it, and you created it, and you've achieved it. And it's amazing. And it's something that I personally haven't seen any other roofing company that runs their business model the correct way. I think it is the correct way. You are playing the long game. All of this stuff, all of these relationships are going to pay out over time. And the huge, big roofs you do today, I mean, they're just exponentially growing.
Thank you. Yes, it is definitely a long game that we're doing. And many times I hit a wall somewhere, somehow, with like suppliers, not understanding our model, because not a lot of roofing companies are national in all roof types. Yeah. You might get a national company, but they're very specific in the roof types that they do. Or you'll get a company that does all roof types, but they're regionally, geographically, restricted. And we do it all, and we do it nationwide for established accounts. And I remember, we did this, we grew it during the supply crisis. So that even put more difficulty.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah. And so I remember we were doing a job for one of our accounts in Williamsburg, Virginia, and, the regional supplier there didn't have the materials. And I remember saying, well, okay, I personally drive a 1-ton dually, and I have a 40-foot flatbed trailer. And, it just takes me back to my on-site days. And I was like, I'll just get in my truck and trailer, and I'll just drive to Virginia, and I'll stop at every supplier along the way and buy what I can, and I'll put this job together. And I remember talking to John Tierney at Beacon, and I said, if this is what I have to do, I'll do it, because I've got to get this job done for this client. And he was like, okay, let me see. So Beacon is the first one to really step up and say, I will check national inventory of all of our sites. to find your materials for you and start putting it together. So some jobs we were shipping in things from, 6 different locations just to get the material job put together. So that was another hurdle we had to get over, and something that, other companies were like, well, the material is not available. Sorry. And I was like, no, that's not an answer for me.
It's not an answer. It's wow.
No.
That's hilarious you say that. And it makes sense. Throughout my career, I always say I learned more from my clients than anybody else. And there was one specific client in Eagan, Minnesota, I think it was, a big monster, high-end residential wood shake roof. And he was the COO of International. So pretty big, pretty important guy. And I remember I don't remember what stage of the process we were in. I think we're just about to order material, and he wanted this really special skylight. It was a custom measured, and I was talking to him and telling him, yeah, it's going to be 2 to 4 weeks. It's custom order. No problem. We'll put the roof on. We'll tie it in after. We'll come back. Not a big deal. And he's like, Alan, that's not acceptable. It's like, I can't do anything about it. This is a skylight company that's doing it. And he's like, Alan, let me explain to you something. You're younger. Let me teach you something. And he said, Alan, there's people in this world that if you're going to do business with, the answer is always yes. You find a way, you figure it out. I'll tell you right now, my company, International, is doing all of the buses and all of the motors for the buses for the Olympics coming up. I think it was in like Japan or something like that at the time. And he said, you think I can tell them we're 6 months behind and we're not going to get those engines there for the buses for the Olympics? You think the Olympics is going to push back for me? No, I figure out a way to make it happen. And I can tell you, I say yes to people. I'm the person you say yes to. Figure out a damn way to get me my skylight. I was like, wow. And that's just has stuck with me. Because if I'm doing business with somebody at that level, or really at any level, I treat all my clients the same. My answer is always yes. I will figure out and find a way. And here you are running this commercial and doing it, and you're willing to go take a truck, trailer, put material on there and make it happen for those clients. That's the tenacity, that dogism that you are going to make it happen. That's why you are where you are. So that's amazing.
Thank you. And I have a great team now. I mean, I had a small team then. My team's always been great. It was very small then, and now we have a very large team. But I expect all of the same, type of outside of the box thought from every team member as well. And just no is just not acceptable.
No,
we don't just give up.
Yeah. So tell me, is there anything that you've picked up throughout your career from people that you've worked with? You've worked with a lot of powerful individuals, a lot of mentor types, things like that. Any nuggets or anything like that?
Oh, sure. In fact, Steve and I were working late together the other night, and I told him, I said, yeah, I learned something from him. I learned how to always follow up any of my meetings with my team on quizzing them of what we just went over. So that's, always follow up with quizzing, because he said, you can give out all of your information and you can do all of your teaching or all of your instruction or direction. But if you don't walk away without asking them questions, you don't know what they retained. So then how do you trust that they actually can go do the job? So that's something really big. Another mentor that I've met that I do follow is Dale Earnhardt's daughter, Kelly, and her book. And it's a Drive for Success book, and how she learned to check her heart for success, and not success isn't always the same. Not every individual visualizes success as the same. And that was something new that I learned through the years of my success doesn't equal the same as someone else's. Not everyone has got the same priorities in life, and not everyone's been shaped the same in their childhood. So when you do manage a team and you want your team to be successful, you got to know, what does their success look like?
Yeah.
Because if
Define the success of your team and define the success of the individuals, and that'll help them track it and goal and things like that. So,
in our
that's huge.
our jobs are just a tool to help us get to that success.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I absolutely love that. What does your success look like? What does that look like?
my success is actually a very humble, I'm not into the big flashy, need the big house or the big car. My success is just being with my family, and I'd love to just garden full time. Is really just having the peace, quiet time. I always tell Monte when I'm overwhelmed, I'm like, all I wanted to do was garden, and you've got me in this roofing industry. So
That's
I
so
was gardening.
it's crazy. I didn't plan on mentioning it, but y'all remind me so much of my in-laws. Like I'm actually really close with my in-laws, and my father-in-law, his last name's Snow. I think you guys might be related. It's crazy. They're in Colorado. He's they have horses. She loves to garden. This, that, and the other. And him and Monte kind of look similar. They really do.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, they might be related. His name's or Snow. Sorry, it's White. It's White. I should know that, right?
Okay, got you.
Yeah, Fred White. My wife's maiden name is Snow. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's Cassie Snow, Lisa Snow,
Yes.
and then Fred White. But either way, Fred and Monte kind of similar. They look similar to each other, and they act the same. And every time I'm around them, I feel like it's the same person. So it's just really cool that you say that, and that just plucked that out of there for me. So family. So how do you, going through all of these businesses, your time being pulled everywhere, how do you manage all of that with your kids and Monte and everything else?
Well, our director of human resources is against families working in the same company. Like she and I talk about this all the time, and I have a different mentality on it because I think it strengthens the company. I cannot imagine if Monte and I worked at separate companies or had separate careers. I can't imagine the pressure and the tug and the pull on, okay, I need to do this and you've got to do that. And we're in opposite directions. So when you get your family, and the way Monte and I have always ran our family is a team. And, our son is 23 now. So he does work for CMR, but he's, grown and not in the nest anymore. But when we were raising him and as we raise Haven, our family's a team, and we all pitch in together and we all reap the benefits of it together. So I can't imagine us not being a team and all of us being in the same roofing business. So when I do work with others that are in the same company, I think it's an asset to the company because that family is all focused. I don't have, Monte can't say, well, Tiffany's, got this, so I can't dedicate myself. So I like the dedication that we can offer to CMR. And I like the fact that we work together as a team. But how do we do time? Monte and I have learned through the years to we have to have specific times where we turn off work. And that's very, very hard because I'm not joking. In the mornings, I might wake up and the first thing we say to each other is, did you get that survey done? Or did you call that client? Or do you know about these material orders or something? But we do take breaks. Our daughter is very far removed from the roofing business on purpose. It's the way that way. So she pulls us in other directions in supporting her. And that gives us a little bit of a small break from roofing. And then our son graduated with his master's, and now he works in the business with CMR. He's one of our project managers. So it just kind of helps. It helps us spend time together because we're all on the same page. And so we do. I have what I call the sunset rule. And, I'll have a bunch of CMR people come over to the house and we'll be having dinner together or something, but I'll invoke a sunset rule where you can't talk about business. Sunset. And we usually watch the sunset together, and then that's it. No more business talk. And then we all have to talk about something personal or, fun. And so that's kind of how we manage it. My daughter is just probably the anomaly to the family rule of we're all in the roofing business together.
Yeah.
You know how it
What's
is.
she going to go into? What do you think? Yeah, I mean, you fight it. You said, yeah, I fought it for a little bit, but there's no hiding it. So what do you think she's going to go into?
Oh, I think she'll probably grow up and marry a roofer, I'm sure. Because
There you go.
when you're 14 and you say, I'm never going to do something, you're just putting
That's
that
what you
on
do.
top. Yeah. Yeah. You're just setting it up. So no, she wants to go into fashion industry and fashion design. She loves to design costumes. She sews quite a bit. She does competition dance. So we're at the dance studio 4 nights a week.
Wow.
And then on top of all that, she does hunter jumping lessons. And so she started into the hunter jumping, the hunter shows.
Yeah.
And so we'll see where that goes with the horses. She'll probably get to a point where she has to choose between the horses and dancing. I don't know if she can do both of them or if we can afford both of them. They're both pretty expensive. But I think she says she wants to go into fashion design, but we'll see.
That's awesome. See, my babies are still babies, so it's a little bit different, but I can't wait to see them at that age and what they do if they go into my business or one of my businesses or if they go off different, you definitely built something for the family. And that would be amazing to watch them grow throughout that with you. It's just really cool. Just really is. It's something to be admired. So this next tidbit, this next part of the show is probably one of my favorite parts of the show. Who wants to be a millionaire? So were you a fan of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire at all?
I know of the game show. I don't think I've ever watched it, but I know of it.
Yeah, they made a movie after it, Slumdog Millionaire, and it's like a big hit. So if you're not too aware of it, so it is multiple choice. So I'm going to ask you there's only 4 questions, so it's a short little part that we have. And of those 4 questions, you have multiple choice A, B, C, or D, and I'm going to read it all out for you. And you actually get 2 lifelines. So if you need help with a question, you can either do a 50-50, which is going to remove 2 of the answers, or you can do phone a friend. And you can call anybody you desire and ask them the question, and it's just fun. My goal, I'll just be upfront with it, is to stump you. I think that was the thing with Regis the whole time, which was the host of that. He was trying to stump him. And I've prepared some pretty cool questions. I think they're tough, but I don't know for sure if you're going to be able to get them or not. But it's part of when I do my research. I find some questions for you. So let's go ahead and get started. This is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? All right. So the first question I have is, again, West Texas is where you come from. Mm-hmm. That's where you grew up, and everybody knows West Texas as being a lot of hail and wind. We get huge hail, a lot of wind in Texas. I mean, a windy day is just a normal day in West Texas. If there's no wind, it's weird. So with that being said, how many severe wind and hailstorms does West Texas see every year? So in an annual year, how many severe wind and hailstorms? A, 43, B, 55, C, 286, or D, 193?
Wow. In a year, severe in a year. And I grew up there my whole life. It was just all the time. I'm going to go with C.
C, 286. And now this is wind that's 60 miles per hour plus, or hail that's, I believe it's 1.25 inches plus is severe.
And we're talking West Texas. I mean, that's a big area.
We're talking West Texas. It's a big area. 365 days in a year, 286 of those days are going to see, I guess it doesn't have to be days. There could be multiple events in one day. Major wind and hail. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I'll just go.
All right, we're gonna go with it. 286. So that is wrong. It's actually 193. Interesting. But you were right up there. That's a lot. I think it was 150 hail events and 43 wind, which I was kind of surprised. I figured there would be more wind. If I remember correctly with West Texas, it's like just wind, and more wind.
It is. You would think there would be no more Lubbock because it's all blown down to Midland.
Yeah, it's all Midland. Dust everywhere, everything else. Well, but that was a good one. You were close. That was the closest one. So this next one was pretty cool. So it's during some of my research. Again, I watched a previous podcast. I cheated. I don't typically do that, but I did do that. I cheated. I watched another podcast, and there was an interesting question in there. It was growing up in first grade. Your dream job was a truck driver. Yeah. That was really cool to me, which you probably did and continue, or probably not anymore. You're flying everywhere, but you driving to storms, driving to jobs, driving to this. So there's a lot of truck driving going on. But you also do a lot of high rises today. Correct? So if you compiled all the trucks in the US, so all the trucks in the entire US, they would either be one truck short of touching Mars, they would kiss the moon, they would span across the world 1.5 times, or there would be enough for one person in every American household.
Wow, that's a really tough one.
Interesting, right?
How many questions are on this game show?
There's only 4 questions. So you want to use your lifelines before.
Yeah, I'll do the 50-50 on this one.
The 50-50. Okay, so we're going to take out the Mars, and then we're going to take out they would span across the world 1.5 times. So It's either they would kiss the moon, or there would be enough trucks for every American household to own one truck.
I'll go with kiss the moon.
Kiss the moon. That's your final answer.
Yes.
You're right. You got it. 1 for 1.
Yeah.
So how long did that dream stay with you of being a trucker?
That stayed with me for a while. A long time. Like I remember even through junior high wanting to, I think it was, probably 8th grade when I changed. 8th grade, I wanted, because I took, in 7th grade, I started taking Spanish, and I took Spanish from 7th grade all through my high school years. And I wanted to go do mergers and acquisitions for airline companies. And I wanted to learn 4 languages so I could translate.
Wow.
And so don't ask me to speak Spanish today. But so I think I wanted to be a truck driver up until junior high.
That's really cool.
Alabama was one of my favorite bands when I was young, so I could sing that song "Roll On" by Alabama in my head.
You could hear it. That's awesome. That's really cool. It's very unique. All right. So my next one, we talk about family. We talk about husband and wife teams. It's something very unique in the world. There's not that many husband and wife that are that successful. Usually it's one or the other. It's not standard. So with that being said, there are some out there. Who is the wealthiest husband and wife team? Is that A, Stan Kroenke and Ann Walton Kroenke, B, Melanie Perkins and Cliff Obrecht, I think is how that's pronounced, C, Don and Jen Suk Chang, or D, Tom and Judy Love? And no Googling over there.
I'm not. I was writing them down so I not call the wrong one out.
Yep.
Frankie Perkins, Suk Chang, or Love?
Yep.
You know what? I have no clue. So I'm going to guess Love, because it takes a lot of love to be a successful husband-wife team.
A lot of love. Tom and Judy Love. Final answer?
Yes.
So there's 3.3 billion is their net worth. The Changs are 5.2 billion. Perkins and Obrecht, they actually founded Canva, which is basically it's a tech app that does design work for marketing. And it's rather new. So I was kind of surprised they were on this list, but they're worth $12 billion. And then Stan Kroenke married Ann Walton, who's Ann Walton Kroenke of the Walmart. So she's worth like $9 billion and he's worth $12 billion, and they work together.
So my theory chose the poorest billionaire.
You did. Yeah. I was reading the bottom of your thing. Hey, Tom and Judy Love. What's cool about the Kroenkes is they own a lot of commercial property all over America. So they may be your clients or accounts one day. I like a lot of their big businesses.
Funny you say that. We are going through the qualification process with Walmart as we speak.
There you go. All right. Now you know the husband-wife team. You can bring that up. There it is. Perfect. The next one. So now you are 1 for 3 so far, and you got one lifeline left. So you better use it on this one.
Okay.
And it's an interesting one. So we talked prior. We had a little mini episode, and I asked you what your favorite project was, and it may have changed at the time because Hurricane Ian has hit, and you've done some amazing business in Hurricane Ian. But at the time, it was the Utah Governor Mansion. And so there's some cool facts about the Utah Governor Mansion. One of which is in 1993, the Utah Governor's Mansion was almost destroyed in a fire. So you almost never got to do the roof because it was almost destroyed in the fire.
Correct.
What caused this fire? Was it A, candles, B, bad electrical wiring, C, Christmas lights, or D, vandalism?
I know the true story, and they're not one of your options.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay. Let's see.
Well, then you have to answer what's the press release say?
Yeah. Yeah. I will call someone.
Perfect.
And then I'll tell you what we were told.
Oh, great.
It was a big conversation on the structural part of the mansion.
Of course it would be. I figured it would come up.
Hey, I have a very random question for you. I'm on a game show. I got to answer a question about the Utah Governor's Mansion. The beams that were burned in the attic. Do you know what started the fire?
Can you put it in speakerphone?
I don't know. I'd have to think pretty far. I don't remember.
Okay.
We can give them the multiple choice questions.
Okay. The multiple choice questions were Christmas lights, candles, bad electrical, and what was the other
vandalism.
one?
Vandalism.
Or vandalism.
Probably vandalism.
Okay. You think? All right.
I don't know.
Thanks, Chris.
Back. I don't know. Could
Well,
have swore
there was a story about the governor's kids where
No, it was the kids. Yeah, that's what it was.
was.
Juicy.
It was the kids. I just don't know if they vandalized or if they left their candles burning. All right.
No, it was the kids. That's remember what I heard.
Yep. All right.
I'll think about it. If something comes to me, I'll shoot you a text.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye.
All right. Well,
okay. So it was the kids that started the fire. So I don't know what the public report says, vandalism or candles. But we'll go with vandalism.
Vandalism. Final answer. So you stumped us. That's definitely not the answer, and you have the answer. That's, hey, relationships, business, you get to know secrets that most people don't know. That the press release says it's Christmas lights that caused the fire. It was December 13th or 20th or something like that, 1993, which is why I didn't tell you it was December, or else I think it would have been pretty obvious. But they said it was Christmas lights. Christmas lights to kids.
So the cool history why we were involved in a conversation about that is when I did go sell the governor's mansion. I happened to be there in Salt Lake. Well, I was actually in Park City on another project, and one of the other salesmen in CMR he knew about the governor's mansion coming up for bid, and called me, and he was like, "Hey, are you in that area?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, this mansion's coming up for bid." So I went to do the roof walk, and I was the only woman there, and they had scaffolding, and so we got up on the roof, and it was a stand and seam copper panel roof that was on it, and it had 22.5-inch deep gutters made into the masonry pan, and these gutters were lined. And there was so many problems with the roof system that were on that mansion. And I said to the state architect board was there, and the GC was there. And I stood on that roof and I said, this mansion wasn't built with this roof. So what roof was on it prior to this stand and seam copper? And they said it was a Ludowici clay tile, and there was that fire. And so inside of the attic, the fire, it burned a lot of the beams. So then they could not put another clay tile roof back on it because of the weight of that tile. And they could not get the beams back into the attic to support the tile. So the beams that are in there are, like more modern day scabbed with the 2x12s, would put together and everything. And again, from my younger years of timber framing, I recognized and saw all of the problems that it would have been with the weight distribution of the tile be back on there. And that's when the inside people said it was the governor's kids that started the fire in there. Yeah.
Wow. What a cool story. I'm glad I grabbed that question. So I just Google stuff. I'm like, what's your favorite job? Oh, the Utah Governor's Mansion. Utah Governor Mansion trivia. And sure enough, fun facts, it comes up, there's a fire. So that's really cool.
I'm sure the public report does not say the governor's kids started the fire.
No, not at all.
And who I called was Chris Caratanudo, and he's one of our specialty project managers, and he managed that project for us, and it's beautiful, and it's still my favorite.
Yeah. It is a beautiful roof. If anybody's watching this, you need to look up Utah Governor's Mansion and look at that beautiful copper roof. You did an amazing job on that roof. That is absolutely awesome. So kids burning down the governor's mansion. I thought you were going to call the governor. I was like, are we going to get the governor on here? I was like, she's calling the governor.
That's funny.
Which is funny. I had a George Bush question too. I can't remember what it was, but he's actually from Midland as well as you. So, so I had a George Bush. I couldn't find a roofing related George W. Bush question. And then there's a Versico question that I had that I wish I would have asked, because then you would have called Monte. But but no, it's been a pleasure. So what I want to do is, if there's anybody watching at home that either wants to work with CMR, wants you to handle their accounts, or wants to work for CMR in any capacity, how do they go about doing that?
So you can, if you want to work for CMR, you email hr@cmrconstruction.com, or you can email me, tsnow@cmrconstruction.com, if you want to work on the commercial side. The residential side is all, in South Florida, but if you just email hr@cmrconstruction.com, they'll get it to the right person. And we have a recruiting team now that you interview with. And a lot of times, sometimes people have interviewed for the residential side, and I've had our recruiter manager call and go, this person's really built more for commercial. Yeah. So that is a way of contacting them if you want to work. If you're a client and you want us to look at your properties or manage your account for you, then I suggest just emailing me at tsnow@cmrconstruction.com, and we'll take care of it. I'll put a team together.
And you won't be in any better hands. They are the people to email if you need your commercial property taken care of, for sure. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I look forward to talking to you again. I enjoy every time I get to talk to you. Thank you, Tiffany.
Yes. Thank you.